to Clearly Community here on this Clear Channel station. And I'm Phil Tower from News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM. Thanks for listening.
Clearly Community is a public affairs program of Clear Channel Media and Entertainment.
Clearly Community is brought to you by Michigan Lottery. Good things happen when you play the Michigan Lottery. 100% of profits go to our public schools. Over $700 million last year. That's good for our schools and our future. Clearly Community is brought to you by Huntington Bank.
Listen again next week at this time for another segment of Clearly Community right here on your favorite Clear Channel Media and Entertainment radio station.
Hitting yourself in the head with bricks is bad. On the other hand, iHeartRadio is good. Bricks cause pain, but iHeartRadio causes pleasure. It allows you...
Don't miss Customer Appreciation Day, Saturday, June 9th at Holland Hydroponic Outlet. Free prizes, cash grab booth, free food, and incredible deals. 20% off all nutrients. Don't miss the party at the Holland store. Sale price is good at all locations. Visit HollandHydroponicOutlet.com.
I knew I was stuck at this kid's house for the night. I decided to just go to sleep and get the night over with. But those guys came into the bedroom and got into a massive pillow fight. Let me tell you, it's not easy falling asleep when a sweaty little kid falls on you every 5 seconds. Even after the lights went out, Raleigh and his friends stayed up. A bunch of them snuck up on me to try and pull a hand in a bowl of warm water trick. Well, that was enough for me. I went downstairs to sleep in the basement even though it was pitch black. I left my sleeping bag upstairs and that was a mistake because it was freezing. I think it was probably the longest night of my life. When the sun came up this morning, I found out the reason it was so cold. I was sleeping right by the sliding glass door, and some fool had gone and left it open overnight. That really stunk, because if I knew there was a way to escape last night, I definitely would have taken it. To read more about the sleepover, check out Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw by Jeff Kinney. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library, and visit read.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
I knew I had a problem.
I tried counting calories, eating and eating.
Nobody else could possibly understand.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people stop their compulsive eating and start living a healthy, rewarding life.
With OA, I am living again and loving it.
Start living the life you deserve with help from Overeaters Anonymous. Find us on the web at oa.org.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes. My name is Lawrence Fishburne, and I believe that number should be zero. Believe in zero.
Join the effort. Visit unicefusa.org.
Good morning, Muskegon, to all out there in radio, podcast, iHeartRadio, and computer land. This is EyeOnMuskegon, and I'm Jim Riley here in Muskegon's Clear Channel studios with the legendary Oscar Osbo running the board engineer duties. And in the co-host chair, we've got a new co-host guy. First time in the co-host chair, county commission candidate and all-around smart guy. I say that because he's an engineer. Picked a smart college degree. Mark Molitor. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Oscar.
Morning, guys. Morning, Muskegon.
You bet. Well, it is
hot rodders.
It's a gorgeous day, and we are very lucky that we start early here on a Sunday and end early because we do have the power tour. The Hot Rodders are in town. My understanding is that the events essentially start around 11, no earlier than 11, so you can listen to the show, have a big dinner, have a big breakfast, and then scoot off out downtown and enjoy the power tour.
I'm going to go. All week, or is that just the weekend?
That's just today. Just today.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got good weather for today.
Oh my golly, you bet.
I'm going to go to Vacuti's restaurant after we get out of here and go watch them go by because they should be going right by here.
Oh, wonderful. Okay,
yeah,
good. Well, they'll be going right by here on the beautiful Clear Channel studios in Norton Shores, right off.
They're getting off the
US 31.
Yeah, the airline exit and coming down there and then jumping onto the US 31.
Oh, wonderful! I didn't know that.
They probably do the ovals too, don't they? Usually,
yeah.
Down to the beach.
So yeah, I don't know if they're going to go to the beach or not, but they'll be going right down past here, right down to downtown.
Oh, good. All right, so they're coming in from Detroit, and they will be downtown, so prepare to enjoy that. And also, because our show is early and begins early and ends early, we've got a great guest today, coming in a little bit after the 9 o'clock news, and that is the current mayor of the great city of Muskegon, Steve Warmington, will be our guest here in studio, and lots of things going on in Muskegon, lots of things to talk about with Steve, so I'm looking forward to it. As we say, we continue our stranglehold on that #1 rating here, and we do want to put you on the radio. We are a call-in show, and I have been criticized for not promoting the call-in aspect of this, so guys, help me out because I'm an old person and I forget a lot of things. But the phone number is 231-830-3109. Give us a call. We'd love to hear from you, and if you got a question that you want to ask Mayor Warmington, this is the opportunity to do it. But you got to get in line, so make sure that you have that opportunity, and we will give that number again, 830-3109, as we go on. One of the quotes that I like to mention that really drives this show, and this is a quote from Patrick Henry: "The liberties of a people never were nor ever will be secure when the transactions of their rulers may be concealed from them." Essentially, you're in trouble if you don't know what government's doing. And that's really what this show is all about. And I think that's really one of the things that's driven you, Mark Molitor, to run for the for a county commission seat, because you haven't really been involved in the politics up to this point, have you?
No, I mean, I started looking into, I guess, the county level government about a year ago, and just the more I saw and the more I dug into it, the more nervous I became about what's going on in our county board. Like I said, I looked at Ottawa County and all their success, and I started looking at what Ottawa County does and what we don't do. And they've got a complete strategy that they started 10 years ago. They review it annually. They update it. The strategy, it boils right down into real clear goals for each department, and with people responsible for it.
And this is written, as you said.
This is written. It's on their website. It's actually, they've got it laid out so nice that it's even for a layman, it explains what every part of the strategy, what it's supposed to do.
So they set specific goals.
They set specific goals. They obviously measure them.
Did they have policies in place? You say to measure them, but do they have policies in place after a spending event has happened? In other words, I'm going to go to the grocery store. I want to spend some money on food. You don't need a policy to find out that you succeeded, but you know that you ate for that week.
That I don't know yet.
Okay, because I think that's really important.
What's something that they really do nice as well is they, we have our CAFR, which is 250 pages, and like everybody's
CAFR is
it's the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Every county basically, every county does have to publish one at their close of the fiscal year, or actually within 6 months after, which seems like a very long time. But they're all formatted very similar, but they are obviously 250 pages is quite a lot of numbers. So what Ottawa County has actually done is they actually publish like about a 10-page summary of it, of kind of here's the important things that you would take out of this, so we're not hiding things. And it's actually something that I would assume that their board actually looks at as well. So you don't have to look at 250 pages. Well, you probably would want to, just to make sure that the devil's in the details. But it's a good thing for transparency. And really, that was one of their goals, is how do they make things more transparent to all the community. And because they know that a 250-page document, that there's not a resident that is going to look at that doesn't have to.
But it's also important, though, and what I found here in Muskegon is that quite a few, matter of fact, I'd be very surprised if more than one or two of the county commissioners have actually read our CAFR, that financial annual report, which is a critical document in terms of telling you how successful you were last year. And of course, as we found out with this ridiculous debacle, where $2.35 million was essentially overnight loaned to the Brookhaven Care Center.
I think overnight's an exaggeration. Didn't it happen in about an hour?
It happened actually in literally in minutes in terms of its presentation to the commissioners. But the point is that had they had information in advance, at least questions could have been asked. And what I like about what you've been doing is that you've looked at at Ottawa County, for instance, which is a neighbor, so they have the same benefits that we have, being in a beautiful Lake Michigan location, but they also have the same negatives. It's winter sometimes here, and there are other downsides to being away from a major metropolitan area. But they've come up with a plan that works, and you're looking around and saying, okay, let's go to some county, see what works, and see how that compares with what we're doing here in Muskegon.
Yeah, I've it's interesting because it's all been done before, and so
we don't need to reinvent. We
don't need to reinvent it. I mean, you can, and I looked at through Oakland. Oakland's another obviously successful county, and I think they've started things 10 years ago regarding employee benefits and pensions. Kind of following what the state of Michigan has done, and because it's a 10-year process to turn those things from being just a big negative into a win-win for the employees and for the county.
To transition away.
It takes a very long time, and I'm afraid and Iowa County's actually is starting it. Started a couple years ago. Oakland is obviously light years ahead, and I don't think we've really begun to start to get people away from the defined benefits.
Well, there have been some small steps in Muskegon, but they've been so small as to be absolutely having no effect at this point. But let's explain to folks. You live in the city of Muskegon, and you're running in now. The district numbers have all changed, but what is the new district number?
I'm running in District 2, which includes City of Muskegon. That is basically anything that's south of the lake. Up to Seaway Drive.
South of Muskegon Lake.
South of Muskegon Lake, and then, basically bordered in by Seaway Drive, so anything west of Seaway. And then I include Roosevelt Park and then the area of Norton Shores behind Roosevelt Park. So I get all of Roosevelt Park and pretty much probably half of Muskegon City.
So generally, City Muskegon, half the west half of City Muskegon, and then Roosevelt Park, and then some others. And you're running against an incumbent, is that correct?
Yep, running against Ben Cross. He was voted in 2010.
And he is what is his political party?
He is a Democrat.
And you are
I'm a candidate for the Republicans.
Okay,
so,
well, good. So and there's no primary, so you'll be coming up in November. And one of the reasons that I invited you here, in addition to being a guy who's done, I think, some really credible analysis and reading and research in terms of what works in other counties and some of the things that are, frankly, a little frightening here in Muskegon County, because you've spent time going over these annual reports and others. But you are essentially running in a Democrat area, and as we start to gear up, even though I know a lot of folks don't like the concept of political season, starting early, but we do have, not in your case, but we do have a primary coming in August of this year, so it's just a few months away. And now is the time to start educating yourself, not just about the presidential election, which of course is a little easier, but we've got so many important elections coming up, and we're going to talk about them through the next few months on this show. But this is an opportunity for you and you to say some of the things that things that you might change, or at least things that you've noticed. And we will be offering this to others. Matter of fact, every single county commissioner has been invited to be on the show. Few of them. Very few of them have availed themselves of that opportunity, and time is running out. So anyway, I won't belabor that. But off the top of your head, I know I didn't prepare you this, but is there any one or two issues that really strike you in terms that need to be addressed by the county to make it a better place, not just to live, because I think it's a great place to live, and it's relatively inexpensive for a citizen to live, but to bring companies into our community and create some jobs, which is really the supreme problem that we face here?
I think the biggest thing is our debt is just going up.
You mean the debt of the county itself?
The debt of the county itself. We're $156 million in debt right now. That's just bonded debt. The debt doesn't include the $110 million that we're behind on our pension and benefits. So,
and those are significant numbers because the county's discretionary budget is only $42 million. Right. So it may be a poor analogy, but if you imagine that your family income, your job was $42 million or $42,000 a year, and yet you had almost $260,000 worth of debt. You know that at some point at some point something's going to have to give.
Well, I mean, basically, we're going to have to start either, knocking off services for our residents. I mean, just not being able to provide the services. I mean, you have to cut back. There's only so much debt a county can hold. I was, we talked about Ottawa County. I was looking at their debt. They've got, their debt is $23 million. Ours is $156 million. And they're actually...
That's their bonded debt.
That's their bonded debt. Their pension and their health benefits is in the neighborhood of, I think, 39 million versus our 110. So they've got about 90,000 more residents. They've got more land area. They've got, I think it's like 500 fewer employees for their county. So if you take Brookhaven out of, which is a big chunk, it's still a few hundred more employees. Yeah. We have a few hundred more employees than them. So
we have what by most sober analysis would be bloated, inefficient government that is spending us into some serious trouble. Well, we know that Roger Miller wouldn't like it, and that's what's pushing him to sing as we speak. So we'll be back after this break.
Love me sometime. Hi, I'm Tom Sanaki, and it's polka time, and a perfect time to gather your family together for a good, clean, wholesome family show every Saturday and Sunday mornings right here on the Talk of Muskegon with the Polka Melodies. News Talk 1090 WKBZ Muskegon, WOOD HD2 Muskegon, and NewsTalk1090.com. Come on.
It's polka time, polka time, polka time, polka time. Have the polka melody.
Double Audio and Video offer a unique blend of services with life stories, memorials, documentaries, along with HD commercials and video editing, music video, all with some of the best prices offered and years of experience on top. Also, Double Audio and Video offer video transfers, 8mm, Super 8, VHS, VHC, slides, all formats transferred to high-quality DVD. Double O Audio and Video. Go on the website at oo-video.com. Double O Audio and Video.
This is Dan Tullis, and I just called Joel Clark, one of Select Quote Insurance Services' term life agents.
Hi, Mr. Tullis.
Joel, how does Select Quote save you money on term life insurance?
Well, buying term life insurance is all about choosing the right company. Let's say you take antidepressants or you smoke. All insurance companies are going to price that differently. We'll impartially shop all the companies we represent to find you the best price.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. I just got a man, 40 years old, who takes blood pressure medication, a $500,000 policy with a highly rated insurance company. His price, $21 a month.
Call 1-800-935-8767 and see how affordable term life insurance can be. That's 1-800-935-8767. 1-800-935-8767. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop, you save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
At one time, text was simply written words. Mail was something from the mailman. And surfing was done at the beach. Not anymore. Now we tweet, we ping, we bing, we're spammed and blasted. Despite these changes, local radio and television still reach more people than all other forms of media combined. And their websites are among the most visited local sites around. Local radio and television, reaching more people, touching more lives.
Double O Audio and Video offer a unique blend of services with life stories, memorials, documentaries, along with HD commercials and video editing, music video, all with some of the best prices offered and years of experience on top. Also, Double O Audio and Video offer video transfers, 8mm, Super 8, VHS, VHC, slides, all formats transferred to high-quality DVD. Double O Audio and Video. Go on the website at oo-video.com. Double O Audio and Video.
News Talk 1090 is the Talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes.
And we are back at Muskegon's Eye on Muskegon. And as we talk about phoning in, I will should have done that before the break. 830-3109. Give us a call if you want to talk to Mark Molitor, County Commission candidate. Jim Riley. I'm actually a County Commission candidate also. I'm running against in the Republican primary, which is in August 7th, and I will be running against another Republican, long time County Commissioner Bob Skolnick. So we'll talk about that later.
How's your campaign coming?
It's coming pretty good. Pretty good. Well, people are asking the same kind of questions you are, which is, there's much talk about building a jail. There's obviously the totally unanswered questions about the Brookhaven debacle and how much more money will go into there. There was that $2.35 million, but you're the guy who did some digging and found out, in addition to the $2.3 million phony baloney loan that they made just a few months ago, or not even a month ago, I guess, the county shifted, about $1.2 million?
1.27 or something.
Very quietly during just 2011 alone. So there's people are concerned. People are looking and wondering, are we going? Where's this money going to come from? And you mentioned something to me that I think is really an important point to hammer out. Muskegon County is a relatively inexpensive place to live if you're a citizen and you've got a home. Our property values have tumbled so that you can have even a place on a lake, and it's not a multi-million-dollar mansion with the property taxes that come with it. But every time we raise taxes or increase the fees, as we've done with our wastewater treatment, and we know that energy prices are going to go higher. We know water, not just wastewater, but water and other, matter of fact, the millages, every municipality is telling us that they're going to need more money soon. But every time we increase the cost of being here, it affects companies who either have their operations here in town, and you work for a good-sized corporation here in Muskegon County. It affects the decision, will that company decide to stay here? Will they decide to expand here? And it very specifically, it affects companies giving consideration to moving into Muskegon County, or perhaps moving into Kent County, Ottawa, or even Oceana.
Or even to expand here. If you can, you look at ADAC, thank God that they did the expansion here, but, I'm sure they have other plants that they probably, in other states that they might have considered. But
And the reason is because what happens with corporations, when they're going to make a move, they hire they don't hire, they have a big staff to analyze the cost of doing business. And when they see a county or a municipality like Detroit, for instance, think about Detroit. Detroit should be booming. It's got cheap land. It is located in probably the best location in the Midwest.
In Detroit.
And the problem is that it has ridiculous suicidal government, and it's had it for decades and decades and decades. And we are not Detroit yet, but we most certainly could become Detroit if we continue down this path, especially given, like Detroit, we are surrounded by other communities, other counties that are really doing the right thing. And if a corporation is thinking about moving into Muskegon County, they're going to say, well, you've got $110 million, or perhaps even more, based on some of your analysis, Mark, and I'm sure we'll get into that at some point. But we've got $110 million that we owe here. We've got all this bonded debt. We've got this new jail that's going on. There's discussion about building a new bus terminal and expanding the bus system of our mostly empty buses that are going around in Muskegon County. And the corporations are going to say, well, at some point, they're going to go after somebody to pay these bills. Who are they going to go after?
Whoever has the money.
And whoever's got the money. And exactly. That's what happened in Detroit. That's what's happening in California right now. And in some of the other states that are taxing their businesses out of the community. We're not Detroit. We're not Genesee County or Wayne County. But there's certain people who seem to be intent on driving us in that direction. There are people out there. I call you a Paul Revere because you're one of those folks out there saying maybe not the redcoats are coming, but certainly the red ledger, the debt, the drowning debt is coming on the heels, and it disappoints me that, with the exception of County Commissioner Alan Jagger, that we only have one Paul Revere on the board at this point, and again, we're not criticizing for the sake of criticizing. We are trying to highlight an ill that is very scary.
We definitely need to start making some changes soon. We're not in crisis yet, but it's
we don't have a lot of time, and it's not going to affect everybody who votes on things today. The effect is going to be down the road. We'll talk with Warmington about that shortly. Well, there are just a couple things to be aware of. One of the things I've mentioned to folks is that at the county level here, and I don't want to focus on the county too much, but at the county level, Tuesday, June 12th at 1:30 will be a planning session. Now, that's the week after next. Just kind of throw that in your calendar. I will be posting it on EyeOnMuskegon.com just as a reminder. But we do have on June 5th is the deadline for the county wants to raise the millage rate. Not significantly, but they want to raise the millage rate. They have to post this in the Chronicle. But on June 7th, they will have the request for authorization on the millage. So if you're interested in seeing how your county commissioners will vote on that, of course, we'll publish it and talk about it here next week. But June 7th, the Ways and Means Committee meets. That's a Thursday. I believe it is Thursday, and that's at 3:30 at the county building.
I predict a 10-1 vote.
There we go, and I suspect you're correct on that, and I think that's pretty sad.
What makes you think that?
That's pretty sad. The big spenders they just like to spend. And again, the funny thing is too, and it's certainly not funny, but very few of these people would be making these spending decisions, certainly not going out and paying well over $1,000 for an iPad that you could pay $600 for. They would not make these decisions with their own money. They're making it with somebody else's money, which makes it a lot easier for them to do. Yeah. But at some point, if you've got a child graduating from high school or graduating from college, and you're hoping that they'd be able to find a job nearby, a reason why the jobs are in Ottawa County, I mean, their unemployment rate is in the low 6%. Ours is in the low 8%, and the only reason it's in the low 8% is because so many people have left. There are reasons. There are results that happen when people make bad decisions. Yeah. In particular, when they're making those decisions to enrich themselves.
Talking about Detroit too, as far as the way it's going. I mean, even every place around, even a great place like Warren. Warren used to be a great place to be in the Detroit
I was actually
area.
born.
Yeah, that was a great. My sister lived in Warren. She just sold her house and moved to Florida. Now, that place it's just terrible. All the houses are just foreclosed upon. All these used to be, $200,000 houses are worth under $100,000, worth about $60,000-$70,000. Just unbelievable.
We are giving enormous power to politicians. That's our system. That's the way it is supposed to work. But if we keep ourselves in the dark, and if we say, hey, this is a really nice person, that person, he gave me candy at a parade, and he's a funny guy, or she's a funny lady, and all this kind of stuff, and you're not talking about the real issues that matter, I would strongly recommend that next time you see I don't care if they're the mayor or city council or what have you, what are you going to do to help my 18-year-old get a job?
Well, there's so few people that get involved in the county politics, and thank God it's not worse than it is, because you look at the Heights, the same thing happened there with the school system, where you had a board who really didn't know what was going on and no one was watching them, and then it just got to a point where they have to close the school down. Well, in the county, there's really no one watching the county either. You go to meetings and it's a very, very few people are there.
I would just say the board, the situation in Muskegon Heights is even worse, because it was named the worst high school in the state of Michigan years ago. Yeah. Everybody knew. You talk about a reactive environment. We react in Muskegon, Ottawa County, Oakland County, the successful counties. They are proactive, and we need to stay. We need to address that at some point. Roger Miller, I know, certainly would agree with me, which may be the only person in the room here right now. So I'm happy to have him on. We got a break coming up, folks. 830-3109. Give us a call if you want to talk to Mayor Steve Warmington. He will be here after the break. Talk to you soon.
Oh, don't you love me sometime?
Double audio and video offer a unique blend.
Hitting yourself in the head with bricks is bad. On the other hand, iHeartRadio is good. Bricks cause pain, but iHeartRadio causes pleasure. It allows you to listen to 800 real radio stations across the country. You can also create commercial-free custom stations just by typing in a song or artist on your phone, online, or with the all-new high-resolution iPad app. So remember, bricks to the head are bad, while iHeartRadio is good. Download it free at iHeartRadio.com.
A word from the cast of Hot in Cleveland.
Want to hear a joke?
Yeah,
sure. What's the #1 killer of women?
Well, you're still here, so that rules out crankiness.
And tracksuits. Heart disease.
But that's a joke?
Oh, no, it's an absolute fact. But the American Heart Association says you can save lives by passing it along to 5 women you love.
Aww.
So I'm starting with 3 I tolerate. That's a joke.
Find out more at goredforwomen.org.
Thanks, honey.
You're welcome.
My husband needed a CT scan to check his heart. Turns out he's fine, but talk of radiation in the news made me a little concerned. So I asked our doctor, how will this exam improve his care? Are there alternative tests that don't use radiation? And is the facility accredited for quality and safety? Our doctor told me if you need a scan, the benefits outweigh any risk.
If you're concerned about radiation, ask your doctor and get the facts at imagewisely.org.
They don't have to die, but they do. 24,000 children every day. My name is Orlando Bloom, and I believe that number should be 0. Believe in 0. Join the effort. Visit UNICEFUSA.org.
If you even think you may be in danger of foreclosure, call the National Foundation for Credit Counseling today at 866-687-6322 or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. That's 866-687-6322 or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. This has been a public service from the NFCC.
Geegan.
Hello?
Hi, is this Steve Bostic, president of Right Size Smoothies?
Yeah.
If you love food and your heart, go grocery shopping with me, Mon, short for mono unsaturated fat.
And me, polyunsaturated.
We're the Better Fat Sisters. Over here in the cooking oil aisle, choose canola, olive, and other vegetable oils. Liquids are better for your heart than solid fats.
You'll also find us in fresh foods like avocados, nuts, and fish.
Before you put any baked goods, packaged, and prepared foods in your cart, read the labels.
Avoid our bad fats brothers, saturated and trans. They love to clog your arteries.
We're heart healthier, but let's face it, we're fats.
We all have the same 9 calories per gram, so watch your portions.
And thanks for shopping with us.
The Better Fat Sisters. Be kinder to your heart. Learn more and get recipes at heart.org/facethefats. Nationally sponsored by Canola Info.
Smog, garbage, sewers, car exhaust. Today's world puts our sense of smell on overload. Luckily, there are places we can go to refocus our senses. Our national wildlife refuges. When you visit, your nose will instantly recognize the purity of nature. Bask in the aromatic scent of the black pine trees blowing in the wind. Detect the sweet fragrance of primroses, wild violets, and blue sage. Smell the fresh salt water in the air as waves crash into rocky shoals. When you smell these things, you're smelling the world the way we found it. With over 500 refuges across America, you don't have to go far to make a special connection with nature. Learn more at fws.gov/refuges. That's fws.gov/refuges.
America had just gone to war when Felipe Adams volunteered.
I knew what I was signing up for. I knew the consequences. I took a bullet to the side and it left me paralyzed.
For Armando de la Rosa, the Navy was a chance to serve and see the world.
I got medically discharged in 2001.
Armando and Felipe were brought together by a unique organization that serves our paralyzed veterans.
If there was no PVA, it'd be a lot of confusion. Our training is to better the veteran. We help out with the auto grant, the special housing adaptation grant, education, prosthetics. Our main focus is spinal cord injury and disease, but we see anybody.
First thing he had asked me before he even asked my name was I being taken care of as a veteran? And I thought that was pretty good.
Changing lives, building futures. That's Paralyzed Veterans of America. To learn more, visit pva.org.
I shoved the envelope under my sweater and sneaked through the kitchen. Mom was on the phone in the front room. I didn't want to have to explain anything. I just wanted to be by myself. Clutching the envelope tightly, I stepped onto the ladder at the bottom of the treehouse. Something caught my eye above me, and I looked up. Light! It looked as if there were a firework display going on inside the treehouse. Crackling and snapping and whizzing sounds spun around above my head. Light shot out in sparks, dancing to the popping of noise. My first thought was to scream fire and run to the house to get Mom. My legs trembled as I inched upward, creeping up the rungs as quietly as I could. My heart banged so hard that it felt as if someone were hitting my chest. A couple more steps, and then I leaned forward, craning my neck to look inside. And then I looked up and saw... To find out what happens next, read Philippa Fisher's Fairy Godsister by Liz Kessler. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library, and visit read.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
Gum, government, you sorry, so-and-so's. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Where you dat?
And we are back at Eye on Muskegon. This is Jim Riley, your host. Oscar Oswald, the legendary... just a legendary. That's all we need here. Mark Molitor, smart guy and county commission candidate. And we have the long-time, revered, I would say arguably the most successful and best mayor that certainly Muskegon, the city of Muskegon has.
In the last 10 and a half years.
Without any question, in the last 10 and a half years. And maybe in history. But we have Mayor Steve Warmington. And good morning, Steve. Thanks for coming on in.
Mark.
Morning.
Hey, a couple things.
Also makes the best Bloody Mary in town.
And he makes great Bloody Marys. That's right. And I imagine he will be perfecting that talent as time goes on, as retirement comes up. But I want to mention one little. A Facebook friend of mine sent what I think is very perfect for this get together this morning, and it's a quote. Another quote. I love those famous quotes. But it says, "Quote: Nothing strengthens authority so much as silence." And interestingly, that is Leonardo da Vinci. And thank you, Paula, for sending me that this morning. We want to not have the silence, as the mayor is mocking my my attempts here. We want to reduce the authority by speaking out, and that's why we've got you here this morning.
I'm glad to be here. Let me unzip my lips.
There we go. There we go.
Really, I am glad to be here, and congratulations on your show, by the way, and the success of your show.
Well, thank you. We things are coming up. We've got a lot. Actually, the Arbitron ratings are looking good for us, and I think it's important that folks like you and folks like Mark get an opportunity, and other politicians in particular have an opportunity to get out and get the word out.
It is important.
And so you recently announced your resignation. I guess that's probably on the top of everybody's mind. I think people have seen a little bit about that, but maybe it was mine. It surprised me. Yeah.
Well, I made a lot of people happy.
I don't think so.
You got to go to M Live. You find out how many.
The people that post on M Live are the people that always post on M Live.
That's right.
They're actually very critical of everything anybody does.
There's 6 very important people. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. Well, I did announce, and I know it came as a surprise to a lot of people, but it's something that I've been talking about for probably 8 or 9 years.
But and that makes sense.
But the last time that I ran, and I ran unopposed, which is unfortunate in one sense, unless you're the candidate, and then you're happy because you don't have to go out and do the campaigning
let you concentrate on your
stuff.
job a little bit more, but it is disappointing that
it's not the way it should be.
Right.
I'll just tell you that. But at that point in time, my intention was only to stay for 2 years and serve a decade. And there were some things back then that needed to be completed, and I've come to the conclusion that there'll always be a project that needs to be completed when you go forward and do it. And so last year I didn't do the resignation at the end of the year, primarily because I put together the mayor's task force in response to some of the violence that we'd had in 2010 and early 2011. It wasn't appropriate for me to begin that and then walk away from it. And I would tell you today that it's not complete. We still got a lot of work to do. But I will continue to work with the members of that committee, and I'll work to whomever the new mayor is in whatever way I can help them to continue to do that. There's other issues certainly that are hanging out there, the Sappy property, certainly budget areas, but it's time for me to move on. Stan Tyler, a good friend of mine who passed away about 10 years ago, one time he and I were sitting at the Marine Tap Room, and he was getting ready to pass on the reins of Tyler Sales to his son Jim. And he was about my age. I'll be 62 in a couple of weeks. And I asked him, I said, why are you doing this now? There's no reason to do that. And he said, I probably have 10, 12, 13 years of good life left where I can really go out and physically do the things I want to do before, age begins to creep up on me and I won't be able to do it. And those words always sat with me. And as we well know, he lived maybe another 5 years. But that's the way life is. And so I've just decided.
Here.
Yeah, I decided that I'll go back and maybe I can golf at least once a week instead of twice a year and enjoy some of the other things. And I certainly have the responsibilities of Marine Tap Room, and I'm going to keep my nose in from the other side where I can perhaps say some things that
you can be the responder on M Live.
You need that would be satisfying, I'm sure.
A good username, ex-mayor.
Well, I'm sure I'll now begin to read and respond.
So what happens in the interim now? I mean, before the next election, I mean, is there someone
for the next election,
at?
The city commission will choose a new mayor. In all likelihood, I assume it'll be from amongst the 6 of them. However, it does not have to be. And then they have 30 days to do that, and they'll have another 30 days to replace, if they pick from themselves, someone to replace
that position. So it just keeps.
So they will make that pick.
Yes.
Okay, and then when would that person who was chosen by the city council then be up for election?
They would be up for election in the year 2013.
Okay.
Right. Whether all of the at-large positions will be up for election in 2013. There's 2 commissioners at-large and the mayor's seat. And if they were to choose a ward commissioner to become the mayor and a ward commission seat were to open, even though that election wouldn't be until 2015, they would still have to run in a special election for 2013.
So do you get a vote in on this, or because you're resigning, you do not get a vote?
I do not have a vote on it, and I shouldn't have a vote on it, but I'm always willing to talk to people if they want to talk to me.
Why didn't you wait till 2013? Just about.
It's time. Oscar, it's time for me to go. Yeah. For me personally, I need to begin to do some other things and focus on some other things. And I've always been in my plan, but there's a sense of frustration that I have on some things that have happened too, and not with the city, but countywide.
You want to extrapolate on any of those?
Well, I'm frustrated that we didn't move on the water situation to a point where we have a county-wide water system, albeit whether the county was running it or whether it was an authority, and I'm not sure which of those 2 evils is the right one, but I still think that we need a county-wide water system. And
I'd agree with that. Is that still in negotiation? I know you sent a letter that said it's not. I don't want to say it's not in negotiation. The letter that I sent was to Mona Shores and Fruitport Township and basically said that we were going to cut off any discussions, but that was for them to become customers. To the life of me, we'll never understand why the 2 of them never said, even though county-wide we never reached an agreement with anybody, but nobody's ever stepped forward. The county, any of our user groups as a group combination, they did meet with us. They asked if we would lower the rate to them, even though they all have individual contracts, because we made an offer in July of 2010. They then wanted to see if we would lower the rates, which we were willing to sit down and have a discussion on, and actually came to somewhat of an agreement there. But through this whole process from the time that I said the city of Muskegon would take a look at selling their water system for a county-wide system, nobody has ever said, what'll it take? How do we begin the process? So have any county commissioners been involved in this discussion at all?
John Snyder has been involved in the discussions, and I'm sorry to say that the chairman, every time that I would see him, would tell me how important the water issue was, and we would need to get together and work on it. That was pretty much the only conversation we had till the next time we ran into each other, and he said the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
There's some new state grants, I believe, for any consolidation projects that are, I guess I keep seeing this in the paper. I don't know if that's actually in place or they're going to be in place.
Well, there are some that are out there, and certainly you have to compete for them statewide. But the fact of the matter is if there weren't any grants, it's still the right thing to do. It makes sense for us to do it.
Excess capacity. So,
and if you've got at least one, and it's the largest capacity plant that's saying, "Hey, we're willing," there's no reason the city of Muskegon has to say that they're going to sell this unit.
Right.
We're just saying, "Hey, we're looking to try to get it so we're doing the best for the residents of this community."
It would actually seems like it makes a lot of sense if the county would run it.
Well, let me ask you this, just changing subjects a little bit here, but an issue, as you are well aware to me, and I'm certain to many of the county commission candidates, is fiscal sustainability. And it's all well and good for any municipality or corporation for that matter, but it's all well and good for them to talk about, we want to do this, we want to do that. And I'm not talking about the water situation here because it sounds like it would be a cost saver. But we have a situation here at the county level, and I don't know about where it is on the city level, but where we have with benefits, health retirement benefits, defined benefit retirement plans as opposed to defined contribution. Where does Muskegon, the city of Muskegon, stand in terms of the fiscal sustainability, in terms of the debt? Like, I don't know if you were listening coming in, but Mark had mentioned that we've got some really significant overhang at the county level. How does the city stand as you're leaving now on its ability to pay its bills and attract corporations in who are going to say, hey, this is a well-managed, fiscally sustainable city. It's not a Detroit. It's a Birmingham, if you will.
I think we're in pretty good shape. Our debt is just strictly on some bonding, and we have Tim Paul, our finance director, is truly a genius in my mind. He's a very conservative guy who has led the city for 22, 25 years. I'm not sure. He retired, and then we brought him back through a temporary service just because of his historic knowledge and his capabilities on the financial side. And with him, and along with Brian Mazade, our city manager, we've got a tight ship that's there. We've gone through 8 years while I've been there of cutting budgets, of sitting in city commission meetings, looking at employees and their families that come forward, knowing that you're making a decision that's going to affect the rest of their lives because their position is no longer going to be available.
I think I read that we have less employees than we did in 2000.
We have far more employees that we're paying benefits on that don't work for the city anymore than we have that work for City Hall. So we've done a good job of cutting down. And I would tell you that while you want to give credit perhaps sometimes to elected officials, it's definitely been Tim Paul and Brian Mazade that has led us that way. We've been a leader in this community for getting the defined benefit into a contribution system.
Defined contribution, which is like a 401k.
Keep in mind, it's all for new employees that are being hired. The employees that were in the system when they came in, they're there, but we've led that way.
Well, that's a good first step, and that's a step that the county has hardly made. So good for you.
It's difficult because those benefit plans are almost like a Ponzi scheme where you need the guys coming in to pay into them, so you almost have to work yourself into a hybrid system for a while to kind of wean.
Well, and the debt is there no matter how you address it.
Well, the problem. It keeps building. That's the problem. Yeah, it's pay now or pay later.
Let me ask you another just question in terms of we're trying to get citizens involved, whether they run for office or support somebody running for office, or they just simply want to know what's going on. The county clerk's office, Nancy Waters, is great folks over there. Just were able to update so that you can online find the minutes of every single county full board meeting going back to 1999, I believe it is, and just great credit to them. That could not have been easy, and thank you so much, Nancy Waters and Kim Grimm, and
we have a very good website, actually.
Yeah, the county does a good job there for folks who want to do some research. How about the city of Muskegon? If people want to find out some real hardcore numbers, things of that sort, how's that work?
It's available on the website.
It is,
and I would tell you that we are the only local government that televises our city commission meetings.
And that's huge. I think that is just great. Is that televised live? Or
it's televised live, and then Channel 98 repeats it, I don't know how many times through the course of the week, but probably 4 or 5 times.
Okay. 150, I think it is.
Yeah, as needed for filling.
Well, no, but it'd have to be 150 times because, I'd say for about the last year and a half, up until the last 4 months or so, our meetings were probably 20, 25 minutes. Yeah. Now we're back into a good hour and 15
There's a few
minutes.
hot topics out there, it seems. With the
well, we have a rambunctious group of people that want to attend the meetings, and we're glad to have them there. There's a few of them that I get a little annoyed with because they want to talk down to the elected officials and just.
Jim's there?
Jim is not there. But, when you sit, let me say that when you're an elected official and you sit in the seat, you love it when the public comes to give comment because it doesn't happen very often.
Right.
And you love it when they're passionate about the issue that they want to talk about. But what I'll speak for me personally, and I think I can sense from the rest of the commissioners out there, we want you to talk with your passion about the issue. Mm-hmm. We don't want you to talk down to us in such a way that it's belittling.
Right.
And we've got a few people that do that. Because here's what happens. I'm not going to pay attention to your message.
Right.
That's right.
Tune right out.
You're almost going to make me want to go the opposite way just because, not because of your message, but because of the way you're presenting the message.
Do you limit their time like the county does?
Yeah, we've got if you're speaking for a group, it's 10 minutes. If you're speaking as an individual, it's 3 minutes. If you're on point and you're keeping it there, I don't gavel you at 3 minutes. But if you're beginning to repeat the same
yakety
and just want to be on TV or whatever, then I don't gavel them, but I just let them know that their time is up.
Well, one thing I would give you kudos for, and I think this is, in many ways, you could very well be and ought to be the model for how many of the municipalities run their meetings and run their communication. I've seen you at a couple of occasions at these community meetings talking about the community policing, and you were there with the police folks, and what I liked was that you took a very looking forward, proactive view. You said, look, we've got the Sappy plant, of course that's already happened, but revenues are going to be declining or have declined significantly. We've got the Consumers Power situation coming down the road where our revenue for the city of Muskegon is going to be declining. We specifically know about this. We need to start looking at things to address it in the future. You've brought that to the folks. I've been to, like I say, a couple and actually videoed them and put them on EyeOnMuskegon.com. How is that being received? Because to me, that's what makes you a unique mayor, and that's really the kind of communication that we want to have.
Well, I think it's been received well.
Okay.
But on the other side, the reaction has been somewhat disappointing. When I've been out promoting this neighborhood awareness program and discussing other items while I'm at those meetings, everybody seems to be enthused about it. But then afterwards, to get them to move forward and do anything, it really hasn't happened to the level that I'd like to see. And that's why I will continue to promote and push that program and go back to neighborhood meetings to try to get... As I said at many of those meetings, I only need to get one neighbor to start this, and after a while it'll begin to blossom as one block in a neighborhood feels a little bit safer perhaps than another that's there. But I don't see a lot of other people beginning to go out and do the proactive stuff, and I was hesitant to do it. I mean, I was challenged by the Muskegon Chronicle, in my opinion, to what are we going to do about the violence that's here, and I honestly had to sit and think and say, geez, I am the mayor of this city, what are we going to do about it? And that's why I put together a committee and why I've taken out on the street and talking to the people, because I think it's important. But if we don't face the issues that are facing us right now. We become a society that so much says, I want somebody else to take care of the problem.
Right.
I want it to go away. And I'm going to tell you, when it came to the violence, that's right where I was. I just hope these shootings just go away.
And so they have not.
Well, they actually have, Mark. I mean, there was one in Muskegon Heights, I think, earlier this year. But compared to what 2010 is, they have. But it doesn't mean that they don't start up.
Right. Well, there's this one in Norton Shores, 2 weeks ago on Sherman and Henry.
Shooting up a gas station.
Shooting up. Well, they were shooting at somebody, but they.
Yeah, but and I agree. But
it's spread now. It's unfortunate.
And it's summertime, and that's traditionally when the most of those types of items happen. So, but we, as I said, we've become a society that wants people to take care of what the situation is. I've heard Jim talk on Van Wyck's radio show. They've talked a little bit about the senior transit thing that we're facing in the city of Muskegon. Here's a service that we've cut that's been extremely important to 200, 300 residents of our community. We're receiving a lot of letters, lots of phone calls into the offices from folks that are saying, I depend on this. Mm-hmm. I don't own a car. I don't have enough money to afford to take a cab. The Go Bus system from the county doesn't help me because of some of my medical conditions. I got to call too far ahead to take care of it. So you sit and you go, here you've got 200 or 300, but you need to make decisions based on 37, 38,000 people,
right. You can't,
and not 200 or 300. So I feel for these people. So now my thought process is, okay, here's what we need to do. If there's a need for this system, let's take it to the people. So I'm going to begin to, this week, after having some discussions with some of the letter writers, I'm going to approach the city manager, which will probably approach the city attorney, and see what we need to do to get on the ballot if it costs us, say, $70,000 is what they've told us as a cost. So let's say you bump it up to $100,000, and I'm not sure how this all works out, but let's say raise $100,000 as a tenth of a mill. You put on a tenth of a mill millage for senior transit on the ballot. Let the citizens decide if this is a service that they're willing to help and pay for. Yep. Government's responsibility, and I know I heard you say, what's government going to do about creating some jobs? And I would argue with you a little bit as to how much is government's responsibility for creating jobs. I'm not really certain.
It's not standing in the way of creating jobs.
It's the opposite. The government can't create, but they can get out of the way and reduce those barriers that corporations, time after time, say are keeping us from moving into the community.
But, when communities go for millages for public safety, I'm going, why would you be asking for money for public safety? That's your first responsibility.
Right.
You need to cut somewhere else and then go back and say, okay, I'll take Parks and Rec. Do you want the Parks and Rec programs to continue? Do you want us to maintain the Parks and Recs with watering the grass and fertilizing the grass and doing those things? I mean, those are decisions we've made at the city of Muskegon. We don't water the grass at the parks anymore. We don't fertilize to make it grow. We still continue to cut.
Right.
But those are common sense decisions that frankly, are a little bit unique to Muskegon in a lot of ways. Because you're thinking the way a normal person would at home.
Right.
At home, when you've got a big credit card bill, you don't say, "Hey, we're going to cut the electric off and we're going to cut off the gas."
Right.
You look at the other things first, and to me, that's what really matters.
Yeah. So, but as long as we continue to be a society that's going to expect the state government to give us money or the federal government to give us money, of which neither one of them have,
right?
We're still going to trip over ourselves as we continue to try to get back to where it is. Government for so many years, while things were good, or they thought were good, continued to add programs for people, provide services, maybe buy more property to create parks, not thinking about maintenance. They build new streets, they put in new sewer, put in new water, not thinking 40 years from now I'm going to have to replace that, and having a fund set aside from that. And now all of the communities,
an interesting point.
All of the communities now are getting caught up on doing all of the maintenance for those projects without having the funding that's there available. So you need to take it from one area to another, or you need to get some bonding or grants, but it's still tax money coming from somewhere, or tax loans coming from somewhere.
You know, you have, Mayor, you have a tremendous insight, and as I've spoken with you over the years, but in particular right here today, you're saying some things that are really important. It never occurred to me that if you're going to build or put a sewer in, that at some point down the road, somebody's going to have to maintain it, repair it, replace it. You have a unique position in our community, and I know that you're looking for some free time, but you do have, and will retain the bully pulpit, the credibility that very few people have. I would really encourage you and hope that you will be a louder than normal voice in terms of great ideas and great suggestions, maybe not, causing a ruckus, of course, which is not your manner, but please don't just slink away. We need someone.
Yeah, like John Van Wyck, who just kind of like went out of the picture when he retired, right?
Yeah, well, no, I don't think so. And I don't expect that to be the case. But I think that's part of the problem in Muskegon County is that our elected folks do disappear when they lose an election or when they retire. And those are the folks who actually know what's going on. So we need you. We need that mouth.
Well,
Keep it going.
Yeah, I'm not going to go anywhere, and I'll be a voice for what at least my opinion, I think, is right. And
well, you're vested into the city. I mean, you got a business there, so
yeah. Well, and I love the city. I love the county. But another issue that's always cued my interest a little bit is I've watched through, and I didn't know this when I first got in. I was like you, Mark. When I ran for office the first time, I was a virgin.
All right.
And no experience whatsoever. And see, now Oscar knows I wasn't really.
That's hard to believe.
A political virgin.
There you go. We don't have video here, do we?
But anyway, as I sat and I go through it, and then I looked at the contracts and where we were with our employees, and I go, working in government, what a great retirement package that baby is. And the elected officials of the city of Muskegon don't have any of that.
The county do.
The county, they do.
The county
Absolutely they
does.
do. Yeah. I think even John Van Wyck gets a little stipping from when he served on the Planning Commission 20 years ago.
Well, that's why he bought that new Ford GT.
Oh, I thought it was the Fiat. That was it. But here's interesting. You have an administrative staff that basically does the negotiating of the contracts with the unions. And so they reach an agreement. And I picture this happening 30, 40 years ago and how we got to where we are today. Mm-hmm. And let's say they come and they say, well, we got a good package. We had to give them a little bit more in medical. We had to give them a little bit more in retirement. But instead of 35 cents an hour, we're giving them 20 cents the first year, 15 the second, and 15 the third. It's a great package. Everybody signs on. Then they come back to you, and this continues year after contract after contract and contract. Say, well, it's not really fair for us not to take care of the non-union people in the same way we take care of the union people. We should probably give them the same health benefit package. We should probably give them the same retirement package. And you're elected official, and you go, yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. So you go ahead and do that. Then this little bird pipped to my ear and says, so that means you're actually negotiating your own benefits through the union people.
That's
so 2.25 multiplier doesn't sound bad. 2.25 times 125,000 times 30 years.
And you get what you got.
It's a pretty nice retirement package.
Yeah, it's the people facing each other with a negotiating table have the same ultimate goal, and that is truly the problem in municipal governance. Please stick with us. We got to take a break here. Give us a call. You got an opportunity here to really scream at this guy if you want. It's 231-830-3109. I mean, he's not going to be mayor for a whole lot longer, so give us a call. We'll be back.
4 weeks from today.
I can solve difficult problems for a Fortune 500 company.
I can run a successful business.
I can put my military experience to work for your company.
I can manage your home improvements.
I can publicize your message.
I can teach your children.
But I can't put my skills to work for your organization
if I'm not given the opportunity.
Nearly 50 million Americans have disabilities. Capitalize on their talents with employment practices that benefit everyone. Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
America had just gone to war. when Felipe Adams volunteered.
I took a bullet to the side and left me paralyzed.
For Armando de la Rosa, the Navy was a chance to serve and see the world.
I got medically discharged in 2001.
For injured veterans like Felipe Adams, there are veterans like Armando de la Rosa ready to help.
Our training is to better the veteran.
Paralyzed Veterans of America, changing lives, building futures. Visit PVA.org.
Hi, my name's Bob. Hi, Bob. I see this ad on TV. Says I can reduce my debt by 50%. I call. They told me to stop paying my bills, stop talking to my creditors. They'd take care of everything.
I gave them thousands, but most of it went to their fees.
Getting out of debt is neither quick nor easy. There are those who will tell you anything to win your trust.
I'm more in debt now because the fees and interest on my cards kept piling up.
Talk to your creditors directly, or to find a nonprofit agency near you, visit debtadvice.org.
A message from Orlando Bloom, Joel Madden, Nicole Richie, Neo, and Taya Leone.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes.
Like not getting enough food or medicine.
Or clean, safe water to drink.
But we are gaining ground. A generation ago, twice as many children were dying.
Still, 24,000 every day?
I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
Believe. I believe that number should be zero. Believe in zero.
Join the effort. Visit UNICEFUSA.org.
I knew I had a problem.
Eating and eating.
I felt so alone.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people just like you. Start living the life you deserve. Find us on the web at OA.org.
Clutching the envelope tightly, I stepped onto the ladder at the bottom of the treehouse. Something caught my eye above me and I looked up. Light! It looked as if there were a firework display going on inside the treehouse. Crackling and snapping and whizzing sounds spun around above my head. Light shot out in sparks, dancing to the popping of noise. And then I looked up and saw... To find out what happens next, read Philippa Fisher's Fairy Godsister by Liz Kessler. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library. And visit read.gov, brought to you by the library.
Hi, I'm Jenny Garth. Heart disease is something I live with every day. It runs in my family, and it took my dad's life. So I'm choosing to speak up, and so can you. Tell people how it's the #1 killer of women. Tell them one woman dies every minute from it, and that 80% of cardiac events in women may be prevented if you make the right choices today. Join American Heart Association's Go Red for Women. Speak up to save lives at goredforwomen.org.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum.
And we are back at Muskegon's Eye on Muskegon in our luxurious plush studios here.
A little out of breath, are you?
There's no reason to mock the host, or perhaps there is.
It's so much fun, though. Come on, gotta go.
And we just for those of you who are interested in watching the show on Monday nights from 8 to 9:30, check the 9:30 time frame. And you get a little extra from Mayor, soon to be retiree, but Mayor Steve Warmington and County Commission candidate and. A digger up of all sorts of interesting financial information, Mark Molitor.
I'm trying to learn the hard way, so I'll learn before I get there. I'm actually acting like I'm in the job already by doing the studying, and probably should spend more time on my campaign, actually.
I got to ask you, I made a joke about John, but are you going to be as busy as John when you retire? Because, John is busier now, I think, than when he was working.
Well, I think you're...
John Van White.
Yeah, I think you're right. The difference between John now and John when he was working is that he doesn't get to take the nap that he used to be able to take when he was working.
Or the scotch. But anyway.
I hope that I'm not quite as busy as what John is, but I'm certainly going to continue to be involved, and if that's what it turns out to be, that's what it turns out to be.
And he's the guy that got you into this. I remember your 60th birthday you were talking about how John was your...
John was the first one that approached me on it to do it. He's absolutely if people didn't like my 10.5 years of service, take it out on Van White. Don't take it out on me.
Here's a question. After 10 years, what's the one thing that you would have loved to accomplish that you didn't?
Wow.
That's a good one.
Wow. You know, there's a handful of things I'd like to have seen downtown completely, finished, and yet I'll comment on that and say, I'm almost glad that it isn't, because there's some different ideas that are coming forward, and
we should talk about that too.
Yeah, we should. I'm going to be a long way on answering this, but I think with the downtown and the new modular building that's just being discussed now. I said at a meeting amongst some of those folks there, as I said, we need to go get the young people and get them to come in and begin to take a look at these projects. We're all a group of 50, 60, 70-year-olds sitting around saying, boy, I wish it was like the old downtown back in the 1950s. Well, that old downtown in the 1950s would still be here if we did supported it and not gone to the malls and those type of things.
The box stores.
But because we visually look at it and say, you know what, that doesn't do much for me. That looks whatever you want to say. And yet, if our younger generation said, that's hot, that's what we'd like to see, those are the people that we need to stay in our community, to continue to grow our community and become active in our community. And so there's a change there on the downtown. I would like to have seen a lot more cooperation between governments, and yet we've made some great strides. I don't want to take away the progress that has been made. It's difficult for people to get entrenched in their jobs to want to give up any of the power that they have, and I certainly understand and respect that, but I still think it needs to be continued to talk about, and as long as the economic numbers indicate that you're going to have to continue to cut services, eventually we'll be forced to get there.
Right.
So
it seems odd. Let me just touch base on this because you said something I think that's very important. It's difficult for people who've been entrenched in their jobs, and as the quote from Da Vinci said, the silence is what empowers those very same people. And we, as maybe a little older, not Mark for sure, but certainly we are older than much of the folks who are really going to benefit or suffer from the decisions being made. It's so critical that we get these younger people, and I would say, by my definition, would be really anybody under 50 or certainly 40, get involved, because the people who have gotten us to where we are today are going to still be there on August 8th after the primary, or after the November election, unless we somehow get involved. And voting matters. Educating yourself on how to vote is very critical. But people who like to spend other people's money and in their own way, and I'm not suggesting that even that there's right or wrong ways necessarily, but they're going to do it in the vacuum of other information, complaints or what have you. And most of the people who are complaining the loudest, I would imagine, from what you're hearing, they want you to spend more money.
Well, in a lot of ways. But, to your point, if the citizenry residents don't get involved in the process beginning today and throughout, when they begin to complain about decisions that be made, it's too late.
It's too late, right?
The decision has been made.
Speaking of that, let's talk about Sappy.
Let's talk about Sappy.
All right. Well, yeah, that's legitimate. What's going on?
I mean, the 2.5. The building sat empty for 2.5 years, and I guess Melching bought it, and $2.5 million, which probably is not a bargain because of all the work he's going to have to put into it, but. Now there's a whole group that are trying to stop his progress.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 different groups that are out there who have taken an interest in that piece of property. And I at a city commission meeting probably here, I don't know, in the last 6 weeks or 8 weeks, as they move forward to try to get us to rezone the property. Well, we could go forward and we could rezone the property. But Melching, as the owner of the property, would be grandfather claused in on the zoning that he has now. So we need to work with Mr. Melching. I found him to be a very sincere guy who I think he has the best interests of the community in mind, keeping in mind that he's got a piece of property that he wants to develop. He's a businessman and needs to move forward to do that. But I informed those people just what I said earlier. I said, that property, they basically closed it up in April of, I think, 2009. And then in August of 2009, they announced that they were going to put it up for sale. 2011, they sell it to Doug Melching. If we go back to 2009, when we lost those jobs and so many other jobs in our community at that time, the most important thing that was facing this community and everybody was talking about is we need jobs. and we were hoping maybe another paper mill would come in and take care of that property, or we were hoping new wind energy and somebody was going to come in and take care of that property, or they were going to buy the power plant, and all of those types of conversations were going on. So the real premise was jobs.
And it still is.
Yeah. And I remind the people of that. If you had come to the city back in 2009 and I said, maybe as elected officials we should have thought of this too and taken a look at the master plan, but our focus was on trying to bring jobs to this community, that would have been the time for us to sit and take a look and say, you know what, now is the time for us to rezone the property.
Was that an open, discussed issue?
It was. We never had discussed it.
They probably never assumed that a SAPI would close down this year. I mean, if you look at the value of that property as an industrial, I mean, it's got rail access, it's got a port, and it's got a power mill. Yep. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that of all the bad things Muskegon has going for it, that's actually a good thing to bring in industry.
And it ought to be affordable too, if you consider that same kind of property in a Milwaukee or Chicago.
Oh, for sure.
City.
So I mean,
well, we're the largest deep water port on Lake Michigan.
So
and somehow we need to be able to take advantage of that, but you still have to have the businesses that have the interest. It's we can talk all we want to about wind energy and how we're a great place to build it and to ship it and do all of that, but if there isn't any interest in wind energy for people to invest the money into it, then it doesn't make any sense to build a factory to have them.
Well, and also if corporations, companies, individuals, human beings make decisions based on the same logic, Republicans and Democrats generally have the same logic. In other words, if I'm going to spend money, I want to make sure spend my own money, I want to make sure that it is intelligently spent. And if I'm going to look to an area to move to bring jobs, for instance, I want to look at the finances, and I want to look at the location and everything else. But I also want to look at what is the mood of the community. And you folks, as elected officials sitting at a city council meeting, if the only people who are showing up at these meetings are anti-development, in other words, if all they want to do is make it a little park, which is generally what they want, but if that's the only input you're getting, then it's hard for the rest of us to argue with you caving into them, right?
Well, the other side of that, too, is that being in Muskegon here for the last 30 years, the one thing I've noticed is the hardest thing for any business to do when they come to Muskegon is to get things resolved, to get things going, because, I mean, look how many things have taken forever to get moving. And why would a business want to come here if it's going to take forever to get their business going and get things? They got to fight with everybody. They got to fight with this. They got to fight with that. It's a constant fight to get your business in. Everybody's got something against something. It's never. Well, we've been talking about the Clipper for how many years now? Yeah. And we're going to bring it back. I mean, then the Port City Princess came, and then it's that's just an example. But I mean, there's just tons of things that Muskegon was going to do, and it never got done.
Well, we need
30 years I've been here.
We need people to stand tall and say really what you just said. We need more of them to say it in the city council and the county commission meetings, and we need more of the folks who've been hands-on doing the tough work for 10 years. We need those when they're out of the, you can say certain things when you're a non-politician than when you are.
No, and I'm not blaming.
We need to stand up because the voices of don't come here, don't develop, don't do anything are very strong and very organized.
Right. Well, do they actually have a chance to? I mean, they had a petition, but I think a lot of the people who signed the petition was online.
I don't see them as having a chance. I think they can put it on the ballot, and I'm not precluding them from doing that. And votes, it just doesn't change it for the property owner that has it now.
Right.
And if they do that, it could end up being a long drawn out court case, I suppose.
It'll sit there for 15 years.
That's exactly what my point is. Yeah.
So I mean, I think we really want to work with this property owner to get it. I've told Doug, I said, and people will argue this with me, but I said, that's an important piece of property for many, many reasons. But if you come in by water into our community, I said, because of the structures that are there now, if you look off in that direction, the first thing you're going to see is going to be
towers
the paper mill. I said, and when you drive along Lakeshore Drive, it's the same thing. I said, if you bring in industry that doesn't make a lot of noise, doesn't pollute, and I said, you berm the corridor of that property,
that isn't his plan, I understand.
Yeah, so that it looks pleasant to the eye. I said, what you put in the middle, as long as it's not doing anything to the environment, we're really not going to care.
Well, that's the whole thing too with the Holiday Inn, which used to be the Muskegon, the Hilton.
Yep.
When they were going to bring that in, I remember that because they were going to put it right on the shore, just like Spring Lake, and have the boats come in and everything else. But they said that it wasn't safe to do it. But yet you've got every place building there now. What changed in the last 30 years that they can build there?
I would tell you that we in Muskegon County sometimes are our own worst enemies.
Right. And I'm not blaming you.
I understand. We step on our feet far too often. We're all about our own little entities.
Because you know as well as I do that would have been a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
The Hilton probably would have made it there too. Bringing the boats in right there, docking right there, coming into the Hilton. Now it's, I don't know, 30 yards from the water.
Well, look at the success of the Shoreline Inn now.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that just proves people want to. They're attracted to water. They want to be to water, even if they can't put their feet into the water. They want to have the view of the water.
But I'm just saying that's the kind of decisions that Muskegon has been making for the last. Because coming from the Detroit area and then coming here, I thought, man, when I first came here, I thought, this place is a golden opportunity. This is a place that could be a gold mine for people.
You bet.
It is.
But nobody seemed to see it. The politicians I talked to just kind of like, oh, yeah, right, okay.
And I would tell you, as a representative of the city of Muskegon, one of the things that frustrates me when we get into the intergovernmental conversations and this one's trying to take over this one and we're trying to do this and that, I sit and I go, do you realize what the city of Muskegon provides to all of the residents of Muskegon County? That, in my opinion, maybe they shouldn't have to take all of the responsibility and it should be shared as far as upkeep. And one thing that I would tell you is the Cross Lake Ferry Service. Why should that have been the city of Muskegon's responsibility, not the county of Muskegon's responsibility? It shouldn't have been. But the city of Muskegon stepped up to make sure that it got done. L.C. Walker Arena. Now, when that place has people in it, what percentage do you think are residents of the city of Muskegon? I would say it's on the lower part of 50%.
Right, I would say.
And yet it's the residents of the city of Muskegon that continue to subsidize that building.
Well, now, let's be fair. Now, there is a countywide millage.
There's a countywide millage for the repair of it, but
it's a significant upgrade.
It was also for the Frohenthal.
Correct.
But keep in mind, the residents of the city of Muskegon also pay into that millage.
Absolutely.
Plus another $235,000 every year of continued support for the building that is really a county-wide building, is my point. And then when you take a look at Pure Marquette Park, imagine the outcry if the city of Muskegon was to say, now we're going to start to charge people for the use of that park. And yet we all take it for granted, nobody wants to think about what it costs the residents of the city of Muskegon to maintain that park.
Why wouldn't we charge?
I think that's kind of a good idea.
I do, too.
I actually wrote you a letter about that after the shooting on Memorial Day last year.
I mean, you're right, though. There's a cost. This concept that continues to be pushed by government, that all sorts of stuff ought to be free, even if, on the other hand, we're going broke. I'm not saying we ought to do it, but it seems to me a community conversation about things of that sort would be very reasonable.
Well, I would like to think maybe that we wouldn't never consider charging, but that maybe other government entities would continue to would consider making a contribution to the maintenance of it. I think the reason why you don't want to charge is because you want people from outside this community to come in and enjoy what we have here as a community, not only for the enjoyment part of it, but just like for this power tour, Muskegon Bike Time, Summer Celebration, the Irish Festival, the events that bring people from outside our community here, there's always the opportunity that somebody can see and grab a hold of what this community is and maybe move that manufacturing plant.
Well, but if you think outside of the box, you could easily say, look, we're not going to have a charge on these weekends. My point is that there's businesses, you do it in your business all the time. Businesses don't say, we've made this decision, we're going to stick with it for the next 150 years. We look at times change, we look at things, we say, wait a minute, we're charging. I know even states now are having certain weekends or certain weeks where there are no taxes. I know they're doing this all around New York City, whose taxes are quite high, and they have absolutely gangbuster sales. I'm not suggesting that we do anything in particular, but I am suggesting that our counties and our cities and townships all start thinking like businesses. It will not happen, though, as long as folks like you, Mayor Warmington, are sitting in a city council, and the only people who are showing up are people that don't want you to think like a business. They want you to think like a rich uncle. And that's the problem.
That's funny you say think like a business. We just went through this thing with CJ's on the beach. And because I'm a liquor license holder, I stepped out of the conversation. And it was sort of interesting for me to watch because on one side, I feel for the business person who's sitting there struggling, trying to make sure that their business is open. And then I'm watching our commissioners that are sitting there and saying, well, wait a second.
Your debt is risen every year.
Every year you're coming forward and asking for the same thing, and now you're further in debt than you were. And then we have a few people from the audience coming up and say, well, it's an important part of our community. We need to have it open for down on the beach. And Commissioner Spataro, a good staunch Democrat, Commissioner Spataro says, he says something along the lines of, this is really interesting to me. You want government to act more like a business. Now we're acting like a business and saying it doesn't make any sense for us to give any money, and now you're coming forward and telling us that we need to give this money.
I love when Spataro talks because he is so direct and he does not hold a punch. He lays it out like a lawyer. He's like, oh, here it is, and
whether you agree with him or you disagree.
You know where he stands.
I will tell you, that man does his homework.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question on homework on this though? This, if we can keep it short because we are running short on time here, but why did we shut down? Or why did we, demand payment in May? Whereas if I owned the land, if you owned the land, you would say, okay, they got a short season. They're going to be open from May 15th until September. I'm going to make decisions for next year in October or November when they shut down. Why didn't that happen, that decision get made that would have allowed time for somebody else to come in?
Well, that would have been a decision of the property owner because the property owner knew full well.
Who is the property owner?
They're on the Grand Rapids.
Oh, so it is not the city of Muskegon.
The city of Muskegon owns the land.
They lease it for $1,000
It's a little under $1,000.
But it was the back property taxes that
property taxes
pushed you guys to put the hammer down. Why didn't you guys put the hammer down, or at least let them know? Bingo, you've got to come up with the money.
We did in March. In March, all the liquor licenses come up for renewal at the state as of April 30th. We begin the process in early March. You receive the notice in April. There are different items you have to have completed in order for the city to stamp their approval on the renewal of your liquor license. One is you don't owe the city any water, or any money, which could be for your water bill, city income tax, or property taxes.
Did they go through that last year too?
Yeah, every year.
I mean, so they owed money last year as well.
Well, yeah, but Steve, this has been going on for years. I guess my point, and I'm not, dumping it on you, but my point, this is the difference between government and business. You've got hoops to jump through that others don't, that companies don't. But again, if it was my property, and I said, okay, I know that there's some things coming up in March. Certainly no business is going to be able to get up and running, from, at the end of March. I'm going to let this owner know, and I'm going to put up some very specific requirements of the, not the owner, but the operator of the business, that by the end of, let's say, November, if you don't show me that the money's in the bank or convince me that whatever is necessary to be done is going to be done, at the end of November, I'm going to do whatever foreclosure is necessary so that we have it available for a new operator coming in this season.
I don't think they can foreclose. They can only foreclose.
Whatever the necessary
because they own the building.
Yeah, there's not a lot we could do there, Jim. I understand what you're saying, but in this particular instance, there's not a lot that we could do there. To answer your question, they were current with the city through the end of the year on their payments of the rent. It was the property taxes, and actually was the 2010 property taxes. They'd paid their 2011 winter taxes. I think it was one of the taxes from 2010 that they had overlooked. They had borrowed the money last year in May to come forward, make all of their payments.
Okay.
They came forward. They offered they wanted to make an arrangement to put a certain amount down and then try to catch up. And I wasn't part of the decision, but I think part of the decision that the commissioners made is they didn't have a track record that showed that they were going to be able to maintain and make the payments and still not be in the situation a year from now.
Well, I appreciate that explanation, and it sort of mollifies me, but I still would like to see every level of municipal government thinking more and more like businesses, looking forward. I know that you've done an awful lot of this. I was absolutely shocked when you were talking about the possibility or the likelihood now of the Cobb plants closing and the tremendous reduction in property taxes that we're going to get from there. That's the kind of thing I want to see happening. Looking forward, planning in the same way we do. I mean, if you are a young parent and you've got a 2-year-old, you're thinking about college. That isn't for 16 or 17 years from now. And I'd like to see more of that rather than the folks who show up at meetings and say, hey, give me more free stuff, and are shocked to find out that there isn't any money for that. We certainly hope to have you back. Thank you so much. We wish you the best in retirement. We will have you back because everybody wants to know what you're going to do with all that free time. And there's some rumors that maybe the Marine Tap will have some changes down the road too. So
how about a deck?
Oh, that'd be nice.
Deck would be cool.
Well,
coming soon.
You and John were going to take over the mat and drive people around, weren't you?
Well, we were going to do senior transit.
There you go.
Well, a deck sounds good to me, and I will
get a plug-in for Men Who Care.
Oh yeah.
Make it quick.
Men Who Care this Tuesday at Fricano's. We'll be meeting 6 o'clock from 6 to 7. It's
and at Women Who Care will be the next day there.
It's great charity.
Thanks to Oscar, Mark, Steve. Don't forget to check us. By the way, you can listen to us on EyeOnMuskegon.com. I post the show later in the day. And next week, we've got Captain Fred back, and we're going to have GOP Senate candidate Gary Glenn. So prepare for that. Listen to us online if you like. Send us an email. Go to EyeOnMuskegon.com. All that information is there. We'll see you next week, folks.
Love me sometime.
Are you over the age?
We've got all these credit card bills. We've got to find a way to get out from under this debt.
The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is a nonprofit organization that has been helping people for 60 years. Speak with a counselor at 800-388-2227 or visit debtadvice.org. This is a public service campaign for the NFCC.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes. My name is Salma Hayek, and I believe that number should be 0. Believe in 0.
Join the effort. Visit UNICEFUSA.org.
This is Mike McCready, Pearl Jam's lead guitarist. Join me and help transform the lives of the 1.4 million Americans living with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Sign up today for one of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation's Take Steps walks at cctakesteps.org.
The Talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090, WKBC Muskegon, and heard 24 hours a day on WOOD HD2 Muskegon.